Next up is Jorge Garibay with Kansas, a great place to be, on why this is a great place to be a beekeeper. 3 reasons include the abundant resources for bees to survive, the spring and summer weather patterns that help plants grow and bees reproduce, and the knowledge base the Kansas professional beekeeping organizations offer.
All right, so happy 160th birthday, Kansas, and 45th year of Kansas being the honeybee state insect. We're going to talk about what we just talked about. We're going to talk about what's already here, what we have added to the landscape, and how to get involved. So the last part will be the beekeeping part. So what's already here? It'll be here. Spring will be here before too long. We're going to have the henbit, the dandelions, and the clover coming up. I know those are things that you're not planting, but those are things that will be in your landscape. If you have trees, you're going to have the Bradford pear trees, the crab apples, and the peaches. If you live out in the country, you might see something more like this, where the things are a little bit more wild. This is what nature has added. This is how the earth protects itself with layers. You can call it armor. Nature doesn't care what seed is in the ground. It's going to return what is invested. So how do we invest? Well, there's principles that we can follow that nature has taught us, and some regenerative farmers that I'm working with beekeeping are starting to do that. You can look up a couple of articles in the Hutchinson News on how we've started to change the landscape a little bit to favor what nature does. So the first principle is disturb the soil as little as possible. In 1934 to 1942, the Prairie State Forestry Project created a bunch of shelter belts because of the Dust Bowl that happened between 1930 and 1936. Farmers, the second principle is keep the soil covered as much as possible. Farmers do a great job during the growing season in planting crops. Here we see corn, alfalfa, cotton, and soybeans. So bees are known to intermix with all of these. The third principle is keep the soil planted as much as possible. So when we're not planting crops, we have other things that farmers are planting. Some of them are cover crops such as buckwheat, sunflowers, and some things are things that nature provides. So we've got sumac and some other things. The last principle is integrating livestock. Here we're talking about bees, but this applies to worms, sheep, cattle, everything like that. Here we have a picture of 1936, the last year of the Dust Bowl here. This is some farmers in Benthrop, Kansas that were benefiting from the livestock that was out in nature. So maybe we had things like this because of the shelter belts that we were planting, and imagine being that farmer turning in that crop when everybody else was going belly up. So these are the 4 principles that we need to do it. So how do we do it in our backyard? Well, we start down low. If you don't want to plant anything, let your things bloom. Let the henbit bloom, let the dandelions bloom, and let your clover bloom. If you have a more manicured lawn, you might want to think about trees, integrating trees into your landscape. Or as we saw in the presentation earlier, incorporate as many flowers as you can. Let's say you want to get into beekeeping. Well, first we have to make sure we have food for the livestock, for our bees, for these creatures that we're going to host. Because unlike cats and dogs, if they don't like the food that you're providing, they can just pick up and leave. But if you're going to start, we need to start with education. We need to join organizations and find a mentor. One of the best places you can start is going to the Kansas Rural Center. Their website offers lots of information on pollinator habitat, on pollinators themselves, what you can do, what you can plant, how to attract, and they're having an all-day conference on February 5th that you guys should support. The Kansas Honey Producers Association, they have biannual meetings, they have conferences. They're doing them now live, so it's better. More people can attend online. They do produce honey, so they're the people that sell honey at the state fair, so you could support them that way when that comes back. And on their website, they have a Find a Bee Club page, so you can go to these different bee clubs that are in different areas. So it doesn't matter where in Kansas you are, you might find a bee club near you. And like I said, most of these meetings are now on virtual, so you're able to go to them without having to actually drive to all these like I used to do. Up north in the Manhattan area, we have the Konza Beekeepers Association. They have a Facebook group, and also they do lots of outreach. And all these associations, once again, this is where you're going to get your beginning information on bees. The Northeastern Kansas Beekeepers Association. They have monthly meetings via Zoom. Their next one will be on February 15th. They just had a beginning beekeeper class this last week, but they'll have a second-year beekeeping class later on. But another great resource, even though they're all the way in Lawrence, they're still in Kansas. They still have good information to give to us. Golden Prairie Honey Farms. This is a veteran-run operation out of Manhattan. They have a great beekeeping boot camp. If you want to get started with beekeeping, on February 27th, they're going to have an in-house kind of class. If you don't want to be a beekeeper, you can support beekeepers by buying from local beekeepers, by some of these farmers that are investing in bringing bees back. You can support local regional organizations. Barkman Huntings out of Hillsboro. You can find their brands at most stores. So the plan is to go wild. We need to plant for today. We need to plant annuals. We need to plan for the decade. We need to plant perennials and shrubs, and we need to plan for a century. We need to plant trees again, not just windrows, but shelter belts like we did back then. Quote from the Kansas House Bill 45 years ago, when we adopted the honeybee as our state insect. The honeybee is like all Kansans, in that it is proud, only fights in defense of something it cherishes, is a friendly bundle of energy, is always helping others throughout its lifetime, is a strong, hard worker with limitless abilities, and mirror virtue, triumph, and glory. The honeybee, by making its honey, gives not only to Kansans, but to all the world people a gift which is sweet and wholesome, something which all Kansans strive to emulate in other ways. Thank you very much.